New York Times opinion editor Bari Weiss today tore into the Times for bullying and suppression of speech in her scorching resignation letter announcing she's quitting. Bari Weiss now says that the Times is now dominated by far left-wing ideologues who are ruining the newspaper. They're bullying and suppressing centrists and those with differences of opinion, and that the Times is now run by a Twitter mob mentality. Let's talk about it with Fox News contributor Jason Chaffetz. It's great to have you back on. She said they called her, quote, a Nazi and a racist for being a centrist. Your reaction to this?
This was about as a scathing of a letter as you can possibly imagine. If you want to read a way to go out in a blaze of glory, read this letter, because what she exposes with her firsthand knowledge there at the New York Times is about as scathing as it gets, that it was not about a collective discovery of truth. It was all about fulfilling this agenda that some of them had, and it's not a true newspaper anymore. The old gray lady, as they call the newspaper, it's just not. It's not the news. It's a glorified newsletter to radical people on the left. I mean, that's really what it's gravitated to. And she was brought in 2016 to try to understand and expose why Trump was so wildly popular, but she was suppressed to the point that she had to leave.
You know, Weiss said she joined the paper in 2017 after the Times admitted they missed the fact that Trump would win. But then the Times, she said, you know, basically the coverage has been, they bounced back from that mistake to making mistakes in the Mueller probe to now swinging the coverage towards Trump as a racist, America is a racist. And she is warning that their Times is making the same mistakes, not grasping the country it's supposed to cover by poisoning the national debate about who America really is. And she's warning that a, quote, enlightened few are deciding what the truth is at the Times, that they're now writing to a predetermined narrative, and self-censorship is the norm, that a Twitter mob think is the Times' ultimate editor. Your reaction to that?
I think that conclusion is evident to those of us on the outside. But here she is, the insider, the person who is actually there day to day, and she's exposing what so many of us have been concerned about, that the New York Times has presupposed the destiny or the destination. They have presupposed the outcome, and then they just write stories to fulfill that prophecy that they have. And it's so wrong. That's not news collection. That is advocacy for the liberal agenda. And that's what the New York Times has gravitated to, according to her. Not for me as a conservative Republican who lives out west. The person who she was brought in to do this, that's what she is writing in her own words. And I hope everybody gets a chance to go back and read her resignation letter. It's very illuminating.
Yeah, they're running op-eds by the Taliban, by top Iranian officials, by Nicolas Maduro. She said a civil war broke out of the Times after Republican Senator Tom Cotton wrote an op-ed calling for troops to restore order in protests that have left more than 24 dead. The former opinion editor resigned over that. You know, and since then, the Times has been changing headlines after the fact if they're too pro-Trump or too pro-Republican. Your reaction to that?
Well, and what she says is that they just follow Twitter, and Twitter is the driving force rather than the collection of news. And you would think the opinion section of the New York Times would be a place where you could see contrasting viewpoints and be able to think through issues. But that's not what it is anymore. And that case, I think, of Senator Cotton expressing a thoughtful position and having it published, which would lead to people resigning and getting in trouble there at the New York Times, I mean, that exposes it as much as anything.
All right, Jason Chaffetz, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Come back soon.
Thank you.